Community Designs is proudly brought to you by Design Build Expo, Australia's ultimate trade event for architecture, building, construction and design professional communities. Visit designbuildexpo.com.au for more information.
Hi, I'm Kirsty Snowden for Community Design, and I am here in the town centre of Lorimer, Doreen, which is part of the city of Whittlesea. And I'm here to look at how great town planning can create a strong and vibrant community. So let's go talk to a town planner. Hi, we're in the Lorimer Town Centre in Doreen, and I'm here with Aidan O'Neill, who is the Coordinator of Strategic Planning. Aidan, could you explain to us how this town centre came about, the origins of this place?
Yeah, one of the things that was really important for the council when we started planning this town centre was to, I guess, get away from what you often see in retail developments in urban fringe locations, which is typically, just your internalised mall with a supermarket and some shops. We wanted it to be more of a focus for the community than that, and I guess we had a real desire to try and bring some more activity out into the street. Rather than it just being a relationship between the car park and the mall. So I guess we really tried to push that agenda with the developer, and to their credit, they came along with it. It was a bit of a risk for them. I don't think that many town centres had been developed in that way in outer suburban locations for quite some time. So I guess we tried to work with them to try and just break down some of those issues that we common have in that scenario, and I guess really trying to make the street that's behind us, which is the main street, as compact and pedestrian friendly as possible, to really encourage cafes and restaurants to open up to become a bit more of a focal point for the community. So.
I noticed behind us that we've got the primary school really right in the heart of town, and how significant has that been in terms of fostering this community sense that you seem to be after, that you're trying to create?
It was actually a really, really integral part of it, because part of what we were trying to do is really get a lot of street activity, get a lot of pedestrians here, and having the school so close to the town centre just brings a lot of people through the centre, particularly in the morning and the afternoon when the school drop-off's happening. It's just awash with kids, and same on a Saturday morning as well. There's just people everywhere down here, and it's not what you would normally get, so it's been really important. I think commonly what you get in outer suburban locations like this is the school's kind of a little bit detached from like the retail area, and it's more in a suburban kind of location, and bringing it right into the centre like this just has really activated it and made it more of a focal point, because it's not just about the retail and the shops, it's about the interaction between the two. And just behind the school as well, you can't see it from here, but the council sports reserve is there as well, and the local kind of football and cricket club has been, I guess, a really big part of that, developing that community spirit as well. So I think just bringing them all into a more integrated model rather than having everything kind of mixed around in different spots is, I think, been really successful.
I noticed that the community centre is not far down the road, and there's also a preschool there. Is that right as well? So that fosters the same sense of community. That's
right. Yeah. So there's the council kind of community centre there that has meeting rooms and kindergarten programs and a few other like different programs for the community, and that they have a real partnership with the school as well. So the school and the council work closely together to have after school programs and things like that. And it's just all part of the tapestry we're trying to get of, getting people to interact with their neighbours and be part of a community that they're really proud of. So I think it's been, one of the real successful kind of elements of this centre.
And was that in from the very beginning, that was obviously part of the plan, and the developers had to come on board with that? Were there challenges in working with different developers?
There wasn't too many challenges, because the developer in question in this particular situation, and credit to them, they were prepared to take a risk. I think they were a little bit concerned whether it would be commercially viable, but they were happy to kind of give it a try, I guess. And they did it they didn't build the whole thing in one go. So what they did is they built the supermarket and the first kind of block of the main street on one side only. And they just thought, well, let's just see how that goes. And I think it went well enough for them to go, okay, well, let's think that went well enough. We're not concerned that we're not going to be able to lease out the shops or anything like that now. So then they developed the second side of the main street, and then they actually kind of then on-sold some of the other blocks on either side and had them developed by different developers. But they really worked with us to get a really strong master plan agreed first, so that when those other developers came on board, the plans were already agreed. They just had to deliver. And I think it's been credit to them. They took a risk and worked with us to get the outcome that we were looking for the community. And I think, looking around, the community seems to value it, I think, and I think it's a good outcome for everyone involved. I think one of the things that I think we see here that maybe we don't see in some of those more mall-style developments is the amount of restaurants and cafes that have opened up. Normally you don't get that in the outer suburban locations. You just get more, your chicken shop next to the supermarket, and it's not really going to encourage people to kind of come and meet friends and sit on the street and have a coffee and do all those kind of things that people seem to value in, say, more established parts of Melbourne. And I think we were really keen to try and foster that here. A lot of, prior to that, a lot of people were saying, well, development industry was kind of saying, well, people don't really value that. That's not what they're looking for here. And we kind of tried to challenge that notion to say, well, why do you think people won't value that? People like meeting friends. People like, having a coffee with friends and doing all that kind of stuff. And I think this has been a really important kind of pilot for us to say that it does work and people do want it. And I think we've been able to try and push that design philosophy elsewhere as a result of this being so successful.
Yeah, it's definitely a very intimate environment, like a small country town, I guess you'd say, as opposed to a suburban strip mall. And could you explain what amenities are available outside the town centre?
Yeah, so I guess one of the things we're really fortunate about here at Lorimer and Doreen is that there is a lot of natural features, like particularly the really old, 300 to 500 year old river red gums, and a really kind of distinctive landscape feature. So we were really keen to really incorporate them into the urban fabric and really give it that kind of country town but still urban kind of feel. So not to completely turn our back on that stuff, to really bring that into the fold as well. And I guess people really have seemed to value that as well, I think. And one of the good things as a result of that is we've been able to incorporate a lot of bike paths along linear open spaces that can really connect everything up and really encourage people to be more active as well, because it's a big thing in outer suburban areas with having problems with obesity and stuff like that. So anything we can do to kind of make it easier for people to get out and ride bikes and walk is a good thing. And I think that's really been a really successful thing about bringing the primary school into the town centre, linked up with all those parks, is that a lot of the kids ride their bike to school. Their parents feel safe letting their kids ride to school because they're not worried that they're going to get hit by a car, and they know it's a safe neighbourhood. So I think that's been a really big part of it as well.
So can we go have a look at one of those parks, Aidan?
Yep, there's a good one down there. Let's have a walk down that way.
Fantastic. Off we go. Hi, I'm here with Aidan in Doreen in one of the many parks in the suburb. This particular one is along Waterway Boulevard. Aidan, perhaps you could explain the origins of this particular initiative.
So one of the things that I think is unique about this particular area is in the 80s and 90s, a lot of river red gums in this area occurring naturally, and we had a legacy where about 90% of them were getting removed as part of the development of the area. And I guess when this area was getting planned in the mid to late 90s, the council had a real desire to try and incorporate more of those significant trees like the one you see behind us here into the fabric of the urban area. And so we went from keeping about 10% of them to keeping about 80%. And that's laid the foundation for the creation of a whole series of parks like this that have really become the signature of the area and are really quite valued by the community. The other thing that's unique about this particular one behind us with the water feature is, I guess, had a period in the 70s and 80s where urban development was typically piping a lot of the water away rather than having it being part of the public realm, and that was another big push in this area.
And are there any other initiatives like this in the area that you could explain to us?
That whole thing about trying to, keep more of the natural features has become a bit of a legacy of what we try and do in a lot of new estates now. I think it's kind of been picked up by a lot of other councils as well that are having land developed on the fringe, where it used to be about development efficiency and getting more out of the land. It's probably become a bit more of a situation where people are trying to get a higher quality of amenity in these areas because, whilst we do get a lot of first home buyers, people are really looking for that kind of amenity of life.
What significance do you think it has on the community? Because it seems that there's a lot of community emphasis in this area.
Well, I think this particular suburb has a really, really strong community. People are very kind of community minded. They band together. They have a very strong residents association. And I think they have a lot of pride in the area. They see that they live in a part of the municipality that is one of the nicest parts, and they're proud of that. So I think that amenity that has kind of come through has had an effect on pride of place for people, being proud of where they live and all that kind of stuff. And you see it if you come down here on a Saturday. You see people around everywhere. It's a really bubbling kind of activity, which is not always what you get in our suburban locations when there's new development happening.
And are these parks and these initiatives, because they're being so successful, are they being applied to other areas within the municipality? Initially
there was probably a little bit of pushback to that philosophy from the development industry, but after a while they started to realise that the estates that did keep the amenity in, whilst they might have lost a little bit of the development potential of the sites, they were actually much more commercially successful than their counterparts because they had more character, so they were able to sell the properties for more, and all of a sudden it became the number one kind of marketing thing for the developers as well. So what probably they saw as a little bit of an impediment to development up front actually became one of the main focuses for them as well. So I guess we've seen that paradigm shift in the market as well, which is a nice thing, because sometimes you don't always want to just be fighting with the development industry. You want to be working with them to get some good outcomes, and this particular estate was one where the developer really did come along for the ride and did want to do something different, and it became a bit of a signature as a result. One thing they did say to us when they purchased the site, we said that keeping the amenity is a really important part of the neighbourhood design for us, and they had a vision themselves of keeping every single tree that they could, more than 80%. They wanted to keep all of them, and they had this philosophy of trying to have a green space visible from every street in the whole estate, which is a pretty big ambition for a developer to try and do that, and not typically what you would think of from the developing industry as well. So it's a good example of a less adversarial partnership as well, I think.
Yeah, I was curious about that, because I thought there may be challenges involved in working so closely with developers, but it seems like this was a really successful marriage.
This one was, yeah. Sometimes it can be challenging, I guess. Like with anything, there's good developers and bad developers, but this particular one, they were keen to do something different as well. They saw the potential of the site, and they really came along for the ride. I think there was an element of risk in a lot of the things for them, but I think they saw that this could be a real signature for them as well, to build their brand as a company, to say, well, this is the kind of quality you're going to get if you come and live in one of our estates. And I think they've applied it elsewhere as well, and I think they've almost made a brand for themselves out of it now. So if we can scratch each other's back in this kind of scenario, that's a good outcome, I think, but it doesn't always work that way.
Yeah. Well, the red gums are gorgeous. I noticed them as I was driving in. Yeah, they're a real feature. So.
Yeah.
And this particular development sold out, hasn't it?
It's finished now.
Yeah.
Well, pretty much finished. They're just like a last couple of little sites left, but they're mostly finished now. And it was very successful, as I said before. They raced through it because of the quality compared to maybe some of their competitors in the area. They were very successful as a result. So it's a good outcome for everybody, I think.
Yeah, it's very refreshing to hear that developers are so invested in amenity and preserving and creating something as lovely as this. Well, thank you very much, Aidan, for providing your valuable insights into this area. I've learnt a lot, and I'm sure the viewers have as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for having me.
We're in the town centre of Lorimer, and I'm here with Leanne Arnell, the Community Development Officer for Doreen. And Leanne, can you tell us what's going on here today?
Hi, thanks for coming and welcome to Lorimer Town Centre. Today we have Pop-Up Playgroup running, which is a partnership between City of Whittlesea, Melbourne City Mission and Yarra Plenty Regional Library Service. So it's a great way for community to come and connect and find out what's happening locally, and also a chance for the kids to create and have some fun.
Could you perhaps explain how the planning of the town enhances community participation?
Yep, sure. So the town's actually designed to invite people to stay. People can actually park their car once, they can drop their children to kindergarten school, they can then pop across the road, grab their bread and milk and come and have a coffee as well. The town also provides a space for recreational shopping, medical appointments, dental, and we've also got our community activity centre here as well, which offers a lot of community activities such as seniors groups, play groups, we have dance, girl guides, taekwondo, scouts, lots of things to do all in the one place.
I heard there's about 70 different community groups just in this area.
There's quite a lot of groups, yeah. And like I said, the ones that I've talked about in the community centre, which is fantastic, but we've also got other groups that just meet in coffee shops. We have mothers groups as well, meditation, yoga groups, reading story times. It's really just a great area.
And this is a fantastic initiative here. Can you maybe explain what other projects that are going on?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been working with Lorimer Primary School to teach the kids about their own space and to be proud of where they live. We've done a fantastic project, a street art project, which is actually on the outside of the Woolies Arcade, where the kids got to design something for themselves, and then we actually put it in a public space for them to come and admire, so they have a sense of their own community in their own hometown.
Oh, fantastic. And are there any other projects that you'd like to talk about?
We did a wonderful yarn bombing project last year, which was fantastic. It was community driven. We had drop-off points for people to knit at coffee shops, and they came together and we actually presented a lovely display at the Community Activity Centre, which brought community all together.
Can you explain to me what yarn bombing is?
Sure,
exactly?
sure, absolutely. Basically what we did is we covered a lot of our community activity centre with yarn. We've actually got a bike back at the community centre, which is still quite popular, so we've kept that up and the kids just love it.
Leanne, could you tell us what sort of feedback you've had from people about the town or about the community projects that you've been involved with?
Sure. So basically a lot of feedback from community is that they feel that this is a small town, even though Doreen is growing. They still has that small town mentality where people are wanting to help each other out. People are always talking about how friendly and the atmosphere, and how people are just in for a chat. You might be walking past and you bang on a window of a coffee shop, and next minute you're waving to someone and you're sitting down and having a great time with them. So it's also a very inclusive community, and that really leads to a strong, resilient community when you have such great community connections.
Okay, well thank you very much for joining us today, Leanne. It's been a real pleasure, and we better let you get back to your pop-up playgroup.
Wonderful, thanks for coming out.
Okay, no worries, thank you. I'm sitting here in the town centre with Julie and Russ Collins and Peter Tedge. And Julie is the co-founder of the Doreen and Surround Coffee Carers Club. Yes. Julie, could you explain how you and Ross initially came to live in this area?
Sure. Well, after Ross had his stroke in 2012, we needed to find an area that was a block of land that was flat, that was easily accessible, and somewhere, I guess, that had all the resources and services that we needed all in one place. So we looked around, we'd done lots of looking for different types of houses as well, and found a block of land that was perfect for us, you know, not too far away from the town centre. We can walk along the wetlands to come into the town on a nice day, and that, you know, the accessibility of the town centre was, you know, helpful for us.
Julie, could you explain why the planning of the town centre is significant to you?
I guess, Kirsty, that one of the reasons that it's so significant is it's that accessibility that I spoke about earlier, and that accessibility enables us to be able to come out from our house, be part of the community, to not be isolated, to be able to join in and participate in a range of activities that happen within the town centre. So for me, it's part of the carers group. For Ross, it's the accessibility to some of those services, and to be part of a range of different groups, such as the Doreen Seniors group, to be part, which is quite active in the area as well. So that being part of the community is really important, and for carers as well, that we're not isolated in our homes, but we can feel like we're part of a group and part of the community.
And it seems that the council's been very supportive and hands-on in terms of your carers group. Do you maybe want to explain what their role's been?
Sure. Leanne, as part of the Lorimer Community Activity Centre, has been the go-between, I guess, with the Carers Coffee Club and the council. We've been able to provide, Leanne's been able to provide access to a range of services for us as well. And that person to be able to give us links into where to go to next or who to speak to for different circumstances. So that link in with the council has been able to provide us with access to a carers luncheon and so on for Carers Week. So there's a whole lot of services that the council provide which have been helpful for all of us.
Where do you meet? Do you meet for coffee, or do you meet in people's homes or at the community centre?
We meet at the community centre. In the community centre in the foyer, there's a nice comfortable area where we can sit and chat. We've got access to tea and coffee as well, so we do have, it is a coffee club if you like. It's a nice informal area where we can chat about services or information that we might need to share, and it's a place for us to get things off our chest without having to worry about who might be listening too. So it's a great outlet for us, and it's great that we don't have to fork out any money as well, because that's sometimes a challenging issue for people who are carers. We have to be careful with the funds, so it's been a great resource for us too.
I think that's about it. So we'll wrap it up, but thank you very much for joining me today. Peter, Julie and Ross, thank you.
Pleasure.
And yeah, we'll let you get back to your coffees.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, and make sure you tune in next week for another episode of Community Designs.